All right, Fresh. Let's go to the Family Matters game. It's Big Brother versus Little Brother. And this is maybe Big Brother versus a preschool brother. It is the Wolverines traveling to East Lansing to play the Spartans. At time of record, Wolverines are 24-point road favorite. Over under is set at 48 points. I think we both know who's going to win this game. How bad's it going to get?
I think this is going to be a beatdown and a half. Um, in all the rivalries, we're going to start off. All rivalries, there are crazy things that happen. 8 years ago, we saw the Michigan punter not catch the snap, and Michigan State knock the ball out, take it to the house, and win the ball game. Crazy things happen in rivalry games. Um, Michigan State will need a miracle to beat Michigan on Saturday. There's no fire in this football team at any point. I don't see anything there that, maybe you watch TV like, oh, they have a glimmer of hope, or that player looked pretty good, or at least they have a good offense, or at least they have a running game. They have nothing right now at Michigan State. Mel Tucker tore that. Actually, I think it was a complete mirage in 2021 with what he did. But he has torn this entire program down, and there's no structure. There's no offensive line play. There's no, consistent running back. This is the problem with hitting transfer portal. You go in there, and they got Kenneth Walker III. They got some transfer players. They didn't have a core of an entire program there. So when things fall through and other guys leave, who is still there? There's no one. It's just the guys who are putting on the Michigan State jersey and trying to play to maintain their scholarship. But will any of them actually show up on Saturday afternoon, offensively, defensively, or whatever, and give a fight? Do any of them care about playing in-state rival Michigan? This is going to be a real test of the integrity of being what it is to be a Michigan State Spartan. Because, weirdly, they're 2-1 in the past 3 years versus Michigan. Like, Michigan State's actually beaten the Wolverines. So I got a feeling Harbaugh is going to want to make sure he takes out all pain on him this year. He knows the last time they were there, they had it locked up and they blew it in the second half. That means something to Harbaugh, and I got a feeling he's going to take out any kind of pain. He's going to leave no doubt. And remember the Titans, when he looks at him, he's like, leave no doubt. It's that kind of mentality where there is going to be a beatdown. They will not cross the line of scrimmage. They will not gain another yard the rest of the night. This is going to be that kind of football game for Michigan, because I think they sort of also have been under the radar, sort of like, oh, ho-hum. They're dropping 50 on everybody, but Michigan's been Michigan. Blake Corum's running for his yards. Edwards running for his yards. McCarthy's throwing his passes. Receivers catching touchdowns. Defense playing lights out, top 3 in the nation in tons of categories. But we haven't taken like, oh my God, they just did that, because they haven't played anybody yet. This is that kind of game where it's a rivalry game where you make your statement, because you have Penn State coming up. You still got Maryland on the schedule. You still have that game at the end of the year. You've got to get an early one to get everyone's attention, because right now, you're top 4. We talk about you mentioned it, ranking but people in the top 10 or top 4 based on what they've done this year. Michigan's played nobody, so how do we even know that they're that good? This is a chance for them to prove that they're actually that good against a name team, because people are going to say, they just beat Michigan State by what? Nobody says that when they beat Northwestern or Rutgers, like, oh, whatever, it's Rutgers. Or they beat ECU. Nobody cares. This is that chance for Harbaugh and them to actually make a statement of, they just beat Michigan State, and they beat them by 50. If Michigan State gives any fight, and I kind of hope they make it a football game, it's going to have to come from the defense first. They're going to have to be tough. They're going to have to grind it out, play a line of scrimmage football game, make it ugly, get after the running backs and get after McCarthy. Play with every ounce you have. And you've got to make it last 4 quarters. You can't just come out in the first quarter and be like, we're going to play tough, and then, well, you know what? We're down by 10. Let's give it up. You've got to play a full 4 quarters and inspire your offense, because your offense is not dynamic at all. Your defense is going to have to set the tone, or at least try to compete with Michigan to get some stops, force some turnovers, make it clunky, make it fluky, and maybe something in the second half, maybe something in the fourth quarter goes your way. If you get blown out, that offense does not have the tools to come back. Peyton Thorne, he was your best quarterback in recent memory, and he's terrible down in Auburn right now. You don't have a Kenneth Walker III to turn back to and hand off. Jaden Reed is not there. They don't have the receivers there on that team to catch the football like they had the past few years. You've got to find what your will is deep down on defense to inspire your offense to score, because that Michigan Wolverine team is coming with blood, and they're going to come get it. I don't think this is, I think 24 is actually too low. You could probably make this a 30-point favorite. I think Michigan would cover the 30. It's going to be ugly, and it's going to be ugly fast. Um, they might have three running backs crack 100 yards rushing for Michigan by the end of the day.
Fresh. The question I have for you is not like I think Michigan's going to wind up winning this game. The Wolverines are way too talented. I think that they right now, you're right, they haven't played anybody. Their schedule's been very, very weak. But in the games that they have played, they've passed the eye test against lesser competition. They look like the most complete team, unfortunately, from top to bottom to me. The question I start wondering though, in a game like this, at what point do you pull your starters? And this is where I would go with Harbaugh. You need to be careful. You need to make sure that you're getting JJ McCarthy is working. You need to get Blake Corum and Edwards their work in. You need to make sure that your defense is being that really tough defense. They have allowed the least amount of points in all of college football right now. That defense, again, they haven't played anybody, but they're still like just completely suffocating opponents there. Are you able to do all that? And then at what point do you call off the dogs? Because in a rivalry game, if you start really and say, we're up 31-7 right now. We're up 31-7. It's halfway through the third quarter. Are we just, let's get out of here. We won this game. We've beat you right now. Or does Harbaugh say, I want my pound of flesh for the previous games. And at that point, it doesn't take much for a Michigan State player to take a very dirty and a cheap shot. And next thing you know, one of your marquee guys, a late hit gets taken by JJ McCarthy. A guy rolls over Blake Corum's knee or something along those lines. Something that just kind of accidentally happens in a rivalry game. I'm not going to say that the Spartans are dirty players or anything like that, but when you get into these games where emotion gets the best of you in those scenarios, at what point do you need to say, okay, enough is enough and we back the dogs off here? That's what I think is going to happen this game. I actually think this game is going to be close in the first half. I think it's going, and when I say close, I'm saying no more than a 14-point ball game. I would actually be willing to take the Spartans and the points. The reason why I'm willing to take Sparty and the points is that I think Harbaugh is smart enough to know if I'm up by 3 touchdowns, I'm going to call him off. I'm going to call him off. I'm going to start putting my backups in. 3 touchdowns. I'm just going to keep that. As long as I got that 3 touchdown lead, I'm going to hold you off. I'm just going to keep you at arm's distance. We'll get out of East Lansing as fast as possible. Got another win. We have the big time matchups in November. They got to go to Penn State. They got to go to Maryland, and then they finish off the year with the normal annual meeting of the game. But their goals are bigger than this game. Michigan State, I don't want to Iowa them right now and say like they have zero, absolute no chance, but it really is going to take something different that we haven't seen this year. It's going to take Sparty doing something, Noah Kim going off and throwing touchdowns. Or is it going to be, Nathan Carter just breaking tackle after tackle just because they're at home? I think Sparty's going to come a little pumped up because it is a rivalry game. I would say keeps close at halftime, third quarter, and I'll say give me the Wolverines by 23. I'm going to say just under the 24 mark. And I'll say I'll take the under in this, 48.
Speaking of over-under 4.5 trick plays by Michigan State in the ballgame.
Over,
I got.
easily over.
I mean, if I'm the offensive coordinator, I just dig into your bag. You got nothing to lose, and that's all you mentioned. The
Right.
things happen on the field. The guys have nothing to lose. Just go out there and
They
let it
really
all hang
don't.
out.
Yeah. And why? Because they didn't hold anything back. You got to throw out those things fresh.